Stop me if this sounds familiar. You're doing everything right. Working hard. Providing. Showing up. Being responsible. And yet, there's this distance between you and your wife. This coldness you can't explain. She's polite. She's functional. But that spark? The way she used to light up when you walked in? Gone. And here's what's killing you: you have no idea what you did wrong. Because nobody told you the truth about being a biblical husband. They gave you a script. Be the leader. Be strong. Provide. Protect. And that script is destroying your marriage. Paul warned in Ephesians about powers of darkness waging war. But the battlefield isn't where you think. It's not out there. It's in the invisible space between you and her. In the silence at dinner. In the way she doesn't reach for you anymore. Here's what I'm about to show you: 5 truths that flip everything upside down. And when you see them, your marriage doesn't just survive. It transforms. Because what if I told you the harder you try to be the man, the more you're pushing her away? Stick around. Number 4 is already happening in your home right now, and you don't even see it. Let's go. 1. The control trap. Here's something nobody tells you. The more you lead through control, the less you're actually leading. Sounds backwards, right? Stay with me. There's this moment that happens in marriages. Maybe you've lived it. Budget conversation. Decision time. You know the right answer. You're being logical, responsible, and the leader. And she's quiet. Not arguing. Just nodding. You think that's agreement. But what if I told you it's something else entirely? Because when you make every decision without her input, when you control every dollar, every direction, every choice, you're not creating a partner. You're creating a passenger. And passengers don't run toward drivers. They tolerate them. Look at what Peter says in 1 Peter 3 verse 7. Husbands, in the same way be considerate as you live with your wives, and treat them with respect as the weaker partner and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Partner. Not employee. Partner. Ephesians 5 verse 25 goes deeper. Love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Here's the shift. Christ didn't force the church into submission. He served it to life. He listened. He empowered. He died to his own agenda so the church could flourish. Biblical leadership isn't about making all the calls. It's about creating the conditions where she thrives. Think about the last time you asked her opinion on something important and then actually did what she suggested. Can you remember it? Because your kids can't either. And they're learning something dangerous. Your son is learning that leadership means silencing other voices. Your daughter is learning her voice doesn't matter. You're not building a healthy home. You're programming the next generation's dysfunction. God didn't hand you a kingdom to rule. He gave you a garden to cultivate. And gardens die under tyrants. What if, starting tonight, you asked instead of announced? What if you said, help me understand what you're seeing, and then actually listened, not to respond, but to learn? Because when you shift from controlling to cultivating, something happens. She stops withdrawing. She starts engaging. The coldness? It thaws. But here's where most men make an even bigger mistake. 2. The presence problem. You're working yourself to death for people who feel like they lost you years ago. Sound harsh? Here's the test. When's the last time you had a real conversation with your wife? Not logistics. Not schedules. Real connection. Where you looked at each other and time disappeared. Can't remember? Neither can she. See, there's this trade most men make without realizing it. You trade presence for paychecks. You think providing means more hours, bigger house, better lifestyle. And you come home exhausted, grab your phone, decompress. She's right there. Same room. Same life. But you're not actually there. Jesus said in Matthew 4 verse 4, man shall not live on bread alone. You're feeding everyone's stomach while starving their soul. Including hers. Deuteronomy 6 verses 6 to 7 paints this picture. Talk about God's commands when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Notice the pattern? Sitting. Walking. Lying down. Getting up. The rhythm of presence. The mundane moments that actually build connection. Here's the truth. Your wife fell in love with a broke version of you who had time. Remember that guy? Working part-time. Driving a junker. Talking for hours. Asking questions. Being fascinated by her world. Somewhere along the way you upgraded everything except what mattered. You became successful and absent. A paycheck with a pulse. Your kids don't need a bigger house. They need you to know what happened at school today. Your wife doesn't need another vacation. She needs you to ask how her day was and actually listen to the answer, all of it, not just the summary. Think about the rich young ruler. He had everything. And Jesus looked at him and said, you're missing the one thing that matters. He was rich and empty. Here's your challenge. What if, every evening this week, you put down your phone for 15 minutes and asked 3 questions? Not interview questions. Curious questions. What made you smile today? What's weighing on you? How can I support you right now? Because when you trade moments for money, you win the world and lose your family. And they're watching you make that trade right now. Today. In the silence at dinner. In the scroll instead of the conversation. Starting now, you can be present instead of just providing. And when you make that shift, watch what happens. She'll start reaching for you again. Not out of duty. Out of desire. But there's something you're doing with your words that's undoing everything else. 3. The words that wound. You die for your family. Take a bullet. Step in front of danger without hesitation. But you're killing them with your words every single day. Stay with me. This next part is uncomfortable, but it might be the most important thing you hear today. Proverbs 18 verse 21 doesn't sugarcoat it. The tongue has the power of life and death. Not influence. Not impact. Life and death. There's this moment that happens. You're tired. Frustrated. She says something, maybe it's the wrong time, wrong way, wrong tone, and you snap. Not physically. Verbally. The cutting comment. The sarcastic jab. The dismissive tone. And you see it. Her face changes. Like a door closing. And you think she'll get over it. But James 3 verses 5 to 6 warns us, the tongue is a fire. A small spark can burn down a huge forest. Here's what you don't realize, words create worlds. Your daughter was in the hallway when you called mom's idea ridiculous. She heard the tone. She's learning something right now, that women's thoughts don't matter. Your son saw you roll your eyes. He's filing that away for his future marriage. You're not just speaking to your wife in those moments. You're scripting your children's relationships for the next 50 years. Moses, the man who led millions, performed miracles, talked with God face to face, lost the promised land because of one angry outburst in Numbers 20. One moment of rage cost him everything he'd worked for. The question you need to ask yourself before every word, would I let another man say this to her? If the answer is no, swallow it. Because you're not protecting your family from danger if you are the danger. Here's the shift. What if, tonight before bed, you said something like, I've been careless with my words. You felt it. I see it. And that changes now. You deserve to feel safe with me, and I'm going to make sure you do. Don't explain. Don't defend. Just own it and change it. Because when you shift from wounding to building, from criticism to encouragement, from carelessness to intentionality, she doesn't just hear different words. She feels a different husband. But most men are bleeding their families dry in a way that's even more invisible. For the spiritual gap. Here's a question that should terrify you. If you died tomorrow, would your kids' faith change at all? This isn't easy to hear, but avoiding it costs more than facing it. Be brutally honest. Right now, who's praying with your kids? Who's teaching them about Jesus? Who's fighting the spiritual battles in your home? Your wife. While you're, what? Watching TV? Scrolling on social media? Being neutral? Joshua 24 verse 15 doesn't leave room for delegation. Joshua said, As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Me. Not my wife. Me. 1 Timothy 5 verse 8 goes harder. Anyone who does not provide for their own household has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. You think that's all about money? It's also about spiritual provision. Prayer. Vision. Leading your family toward Christ. And you've abandoned your post. Here's the brutal reality. Your kids are learning that faith is feminine. That God is mom's department. Your son will grow up spiritually passive because dad was spiritually passive. Your daughter will marry a spiritually passive man because that's what she saw modeled. The cycle compounds. Because you stayed neutral. Eli was a priest, spiritual leader of an entire nation. But he failed to lead his own son spiritually. And God said in 1 Samuel 3 verse 13, I will judge his family forever because he failed to restrain them. All his ministry successes couldn't compensate for his domestic failure. Here's the shift, and it's simpler than you think. What if you gathered your family before bed once this week and read one verse out loud? Just one. Then asked, what do you think this means? What if you prayed with your wife before sleep, held her hand, thanked God for her, prayed for your kids? 2 minutes. Out loud. Even if it feels awkward. What if, when your kid asks about God, you answered instead of deferring to mom? Not a sermon. Just real conversation. Because when you step into spiritual leadership, not perfectly, just intentionally, everything shifts. Your wife stops carrying the burden alone. Your kids see faith as something men do. The spiritual temperature in your home changes. You're not starting a church. You're starting to lead. And that changes everything. But there's one final area where most men are completely shut down. 5. The fear of opening up. Imagine this: she's right there. 3 feet away. Same bed. Same life. But you're strangers. Because she doesn't know you. Not the real you. You won't let her in. John 11 verse 35 is the shortest verse in the Bible. 2 words. Jesus wept. The Son of God. In public. Tears streaming down his face. The most powerful being in existence modeled vulnerability. But you've been taught vulnerability is weakness. So you hide. You perform strength. You wear armor. And she's married to an image, not a man. Ephesians 5 verse 31. The two will become one flesh. Here's the truth: you can't become one flesh while wearing armor. There's this thing that happens in marriages. She used to ask, "How are you really doing?" And you tell her. Now she asks and you say, "I'm fine." She's learned. You trained her. That you don't want to be known. And now you're alone. Together. Functionally married. Emotionally divorced. Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Career over. Reputation destroyed. But in John 21, Jesus didn't exile him. He restored him. Publicly. Vulnerably. Peter, do you love me? 3 times. 3 chances to redeem 3 failures. Peter's vulnerability with his failure became the foundation of his authority. Your wife doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be real. What if tonight you sat with her and said something like, "Can I be honest about something I'm struggling with?" Then told her. One real thing. One fear. One failure. One place where you don't have it figured out. Watch what happens. Watch her lean in. Because that's intimacy. That's what she's been starving for. Not your strength. Your humanity. Because when you shift from performing to being real, from hiding to being known, from armor to openness, she doesn't just see a different you. She falls for you again. Jesus, the King of Kings, washed feet. Got on his knees. Served. That's your model. God didn't call you to be flawless. He called you to be faithful. To show up. To try. To fail and try again. To lead through service, not control. Galatians 2 verse 20, I have been crucified with Christ and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. Die to yourself daily. And watch your marriage resurrect. You're standing at a crossroads right now. One path, keep doing what you're doing. Same patterns. Same results. Same coldness. Hope it somehow gets better. Other path, start today. Right now. This moment. Here's the truth nobody's telling you. Your marriage can transform in 30 days. Not because you become perfect. Because you become present. Because you shift from controlling to cultivating, from providing to being present, from wounding to building, from abandoning to leading, from hiding to being known. Your wife is watching right now. Waiting. Hoping you'll become the man she fell in love with. The man she knows you can be. Your kids are watching. Building their template for marriage based on what they see in you. Today is day 1. Close this. Find her. Start now. The world doesn't need more perfect husbands. It needs faithful ones. That's you. Starting right now.